Disappointment in this clubhouse. It took a long time for us to get in there, but by the time we were in there, most of it was guys shaking hands, bidding each other goodbye, in a pretty good mood, looking ahead to the future. Disappointed, no doubt, but looking ahead with real feeling and appreciating what this 2024 season was. And George Brett appreciated it too, right from back when we were thinking about how many games this particular version of the Kansas City Royals would win.
You win 56 games the year before. You're kind of praying for 500, and they exceeded that. And then you go to Baltimore in a hostile environment. You win there, win 1 out of 2 in New York. And I'll tell you what, the Yankees, I think we're over here praising them. Yeah, they're a great team and stuff, but I think they're looking over here saying we don't want to play those guys. So they've come a long ways. I think Q and his coaching staff did a great job. The team has a lot of heart, a lot of desire. They don't quit. And a lot of close games. I think they outscored us by 2 runs in 4 games. And, we kind of had opportunities and didn't cash in, and they did. And that's what usually happens in a short series.
Right. You handle pitching differently. The games were tight. It was just fun. It just was a fun atmosphere for Kansas City baseball.
Well, it's been a while. It's been 10 years, and the last drought we had was 30, so this was only 10. And I think the rebuild went a little faster than everybody expected. But these guys in spring training, they didn't think they were a 500 team. They thought they were better than that. And sure enough, they came out and proved it. We had a 7-game losing streak and a 6-game losing streak. You take those 2 away, we got home field advantage through the playoffs, and things might have been different. But it was a good year by all. Everybody's going around and, handshaking. I just thanked everybody for a great summer, because that's what it was. It was a great summer for Kansas City Royal and for the Kansas City Royals fans.
Baseball seasons are unto themselves. We saw the Texas Rangers win the World Series last year and not come anywhere close to making the playoffs this year with a big payroll. Now, they had big-time injuries left and right. The Royals' situation is a little bit different. There are obvious flaws on this team. The bullpen was a roller coaster this year, though they did pitch very well down the stretch. The starting pitching was unbelievably healthy, something you probably can't count on in the future. Michael Wacha may or may not be here next year. He said all the right things during the postseason, but this is a guy who's comfortable with moving around. The Royals were his 6th team in his last 6 years. So if he gets a better offer, he could be elsewhere. You kind of suspect Seth Lugo's found something for a couple of years, but he'll be 35 years old next year pitching. Brady Singer was excellent for a good part of the season, but then he kind of looked like the old Brady Singer over the past back third of the season. Obviously, we mentioned the bats before. They definitely need to do something about that. And Salvador Perez is not getting any younger. So there are all kinds of different things to look at as things that need to be improved. But look at what J.J. Piccolo did with this team. In the offseason, he got the pitching. During the season, he added bats. He was aggressive, and they've revamped the scouting system. The manager is clearly solid. Matt Quatroro, obviously, you heard that. You heard that earlier in this podcast. He is forthright enough. He's interesting enough. He gives you enough. He says enough. It's not like Andy Reid running out there for 162 games, but he can get a little defensive when you're maybe going to get on his players or his team a little bit. But he's a steady force. I think he's an outstanding manager and generally makes good tactical moves as well. I think he's got a good combination of gut feeling and analytics. So I do have pretty good faith that the Royals can make some moves and reconstruct this team, but they will need to do. This isn't just an aspect of young guys getting a little bit better. I listened to the post-game shows last night. I heard a lot of people talking about young team this, young team this. It was not a young team. They had a handful of young players who contributed, but those players have played enough that you don't expect Kyle Isbel to break through and be great all of a sudden. You kind of know what MJ Melendez is. Michael Garcia, you thought maybe was starting to maybe emerge earlier this season at the age of 24, but then he reverted to kind of being what he's been, and so you kind of expect that. So they probably do need acquisitions, and I think there is there's a chance that they might take a step back next year. I can see that. I can definitely see that. But I also have seen what J.J. Piccolo did this year to do something truly remarkable, which is to go from 56 wins to 86 in a playoff victory. It was cool. It truly was a royal renaissance, and what it did was regenerate enthusiasm in this town for baseball at a time when obviously the Chiefs rule and they're the best in football, but the Royals now get themselves a little piece of the sports story as well. It was a fun 2024. And because of that, it's going to be a really fascinating offseason, probably far more interesting than any in the past 5 or 6 years, because now people care again about the Kansas City Royals on our Kansas City Royals Renaissance edition of Kansas City Profiles, presented by Easton Roofing.
We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new. This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. Joe Spiker and his team are the best in the business for all your roofing needs, handled with honesty and craftsmanship. Visit them at eastonroofing.com.